So today's AFC Championship game, what was going to win out? Was it going to be the more traditional model of how teams have enjoyed success in the playoffs throughout the years? Have the ability to run the ball, play great defense, or was it going to be the Kansas City Chiefs model of we might get a couple of defensive stops, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that even if our offense struggles a little bit early, we're so dynamic, we're so explosive, and so good, and we're just going to run you out of the building. We're just going to score too many points. And at the end of the day, that's going to overwhelm you, that's going to overpower you, and you just can't keep up. Well, we found out the answer in today's game, that's for sure. And it didn't look like it was going to be that way early. Because the Chiefs, while I wouldn't say they fully face-planted to start off the game, it's a little concerning that for the second straight week in a playoff position, you're at home, you should be more ready and more prepared and more emotionally ready as much as anything else to play than what you actually were. And instead, you've got the Titans going out and marching right down the field on you. Bam, field goal. Bam, touchdown. And before you know it, you're down. And while the Chiefs avoided some of the back-breaking mistakes that they had in the divisional round, you still don't want to be going down big time to a team like the Titans, whose team, their whole philosophy and approach is designed to play in just that way. They're not a big come-from-behind team. They're not a we're going to put explosive numbers of points up on the board. It is let's get a lead, let's sit on it, let's ground out the game with our running game, and let's get after the quarterback with our defense and our pass rush. And early on, the Chiefs were setting up the table to play right into the Titans' formula. The same formula for success that they had against the defending Super Bowl champions and the greatest head coach of all time and the greatest quarterback of all time in Bill Belichick and Tom Brady in the wild card round in New England, mind you, then turning around the next week, going to Baltimore, facing off against the team with the best record in the league and the league's most valuable player in Lamar Jackson, and they did the same thing to him. They got up on him early, made some big plays when they needed to, and then they just ground the Ravens into submission. And here you go the third straight week. It feels like this could be potentially happening again. And then the magnificence of Mahomes and that Kansas City Chiefs offense became quite evident to all. Yeah, it was a nice thought to think about it for a little bit if you were a Titans fan, but you had to have that feeling of inevitability of doom of, oh God, here we go. It's about to be on. And it most certainly was. Once the Chiefs found the rhythm offensively, once they got the flow of it offensively, once Patrick Mahomes started to really, frankly, impose his will upon this game, everything changed. And it was all downhill for the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, what more could you say about Patrick Mahomes' performance? He was outstanding. You know, the 4 touchdowns, you're talking about a guy, the big run for touchdown on the left sideline. That's going to be one of those career-defining plays. One of those, show that on my highlight reel when I'm getting inducted in the first ballot in Canton 6 years after I retire. That's the type of play that was. But Mahomes was just fantastic. And what else could you expect out of him? I know, it's heartbreaking if you're a Bears fan, because you sit there and you say, he could have been ours. And he certainly could have. And not saying that this would have been the same fate for the Bears that the Chiefs ended up with, but it's nice to dream. It's nice to think. It's nice to hope. But let's be realistic here. Plenty of other teams passed on Patrick Mahomes as well. The Cleveland Browns did. They took Myles Garrett. Edge rusher is great. Not over a Hall of Fame level quarterback. Yeah. You could say the San Francisco 49ers. Sure, they ended up trading for Jimmy G, and that may have worked out, but ultimately, Mahomes is a vastly superior player. If you would have had your choice, you would have rather sat there and gotten the guy like Mahomes on his rookie contract to be even better. The Bears blew it. The Jaguars took Leonard Fournette in that draft instead of taking Patrick Mahomes because they had Blake Bortles. Do you get kind of what I'm talking about here? It's just, we could say that about the Bears, but they're not the only team that screwed up, and they're not the only team that missed. And that is not to take away from anything, but, you know, if you're a Chiefs fan, you could give a crap less about our Chicago Tears or anybody else's Tears right now, because it finally happened for you guys. It finally happened. The defense played well enough, contained Derrick Henry enough to where he didn't fully impose his will upon this game. You put a little more pressure on Ryan Tannehill to be able to do big things in the passing game, and they just really weren't able to do that. It's not what they were built for. It was a little surprising to see they didn't do a better job of getting A.J. Brown more involved in the game defensively. Would have liked to have seen Jarrell Casey show up more for a guy that's been so good for so long. You would like to see in this marquee spot for him to be a difference maker, and he was not. But when you're getting into a place where the biggest key to your success is the running game, and the running game is being somewhat neutralized and contained by the Kansas City Chiefs, even when they occasionally get the stupid 3rd and 22 penalty, whatever the hell they're doing there. You know, the random offsides penalty for no reason, just, you know, having to understand situations even late in the game. You got the running back running out of bounds, stopping the clock. What are you doing? You still have those brain farts and you still have those moments, but you wonder if this Chiefs team is just so good, and in particularly on offense, just so extremely talented that they can finally overcome some of the brain farts that you typically associate with an Andy Reid coach team. But nonetheless, for the Chiefs, once they were able to contain Derrick Henry even a little bit, now you're basically looking at which offense and which passing game do you like more? Do you like Patrick Mahomes throwing to guys like Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins? Or do you like the Tennessee Titans throwing to guys like Davis, A.J. Brown, and Jonnu Smith? Exactly. And that's what it came down to. The Chiefs stepped up and did a good job, a good enough job against Derrick Henry and that Titans running game, that once they did that, it was only a matter of time. It was inevitable that the Chiefs were going to impose their will, that Chiefs offense was going to start putting points on the board, making big plays happen, and they most certainly did today, that's for sure. And they go on to end up winning, beating the Tennessee Titans 35-24. And we've now seen history. And this is not an understatement, or this is not an overexaggeration, I should say. This is not me just trying to be sensationalistic or anything. This is history. It really is. Andy Reid is now going to the Super Bowl with a second team. I think only 6 guys in history before him have ever done that, maybe 7. So it's a very select list, only further cements his resume for being Hall of Fame worthy someday. But more importantly for Chiefs fans, this is the first time this team is going to the Super Bowl in 50 years. They finally won the Lamar Hunt Trophy, named after their first owner and founder, Lamar Hunt, the guy who helped orchestrate the AFL-NFL merger behind Al Davis's back, mind you. Going back to the days of Hank Stram and 65 toss power trap and frickin' Len Dawson sitting there smoking heaters at halftime of the Super Bowl and all that stuff. It's been so long since the Chiefs have been in the Super Bowl. Now, when the Chiefs went to the Super Bowl in that 1969 season, the AFL and NFL were still technically 2 different entities. 2 different entities. Think about that. Mickey Mantle was finishing up his last year in the major leagues, if I've got that right. I might be off on the time frame. Thought it was 69. Could be misremembering. Whatever the hell the case might be. But think about that. The Celtics just a few months prior had won their 11th NBA championship in 13 seasons with Bill Russell as the player coach. Richard Nixon was the president. Vietnam was still in its full throes. That's how long it's been since the Kansas City Chiefs last made it to the Super Bowl. And here they are in this moment of time. They have made it back. After making appearances in 2 of the first 4 Super Bowls, including the first one, the Chiefs are finally back in the Super Bowl once again. And for Chiefs fans, it has to be thrilling. All those years of disappointment, all those years of bad playoff losses, all those years of heartbreak, all those years of searching for a guy that could actually be the guy at quarterback in 34 years. after the screw-up of taking Todd Blackledge in the first round, 7th overall in the 83 draft. Here come full circle, 2017 draft. The team trades up to 10, gets Patrick Mahomes, and a few years later, you've moved on from Alex Smith, and look where you are now. You're in the Super Bowl, baby! That's history. So obviously, there's life left in the Kansas City team. And in the meantime, for the Tennessee Titans, a heartbreaking loss, sure, but absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. For a team that had to squeak into the playoffs by winning in Week 17 against the Texans team that had nothing to play for, they came out and they beat, in consecutive weeks on the road, the greatest head coach and quarterback combination in NFL history in New England, in the Patriots, and then followed that up the next week against the team with the best record in the league in 2019, with the league's MVP, Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens. And they go to Kansas City, and they stuck a game to them, and they were up double digits early in the game. It's hard to lose these games, Titans fans. I know it is. Been there, done that. But considering what you were looking at potentially before the season started, you know, when you realize that Mariota's not the guy and you got to go to Ryan Tannehill of all people, you can't really have much hope that your season is going to end up this nicely, and it certainly did. While it didn't end in the destination you might have wanted, it still was a successful and, you know, type of season that you can have some hope for, that you've got the right coach, that you've got the right general manager, that you've got some of the right things in the works. And it will remain to be seen what happens. But at least the game wasn't a total wipeout. I'm really happy for Patrick Mahomes, obviously. I'm even more ecstatic for Andy Reid to have this opportunity to get back to the Super Bowl again and hopefully, just hopefully, be able to finally win one, get that monkey off of his back, shed that label of being a big game choker, because by God, he deserves it.